Jen, thanks. I wanted to ask you about your statement last night that came out after the president's press conference. You said in that the president was aware the Russians have an extensive playbook of aggression short of military action, including cyber attacks and paramilitary tactics. Was the implication of this, that statement didn't quite say it, that when the president used the words minor incursions, he had the paramilitary actions and the cyber attacks in mind?
Yeah.
So,
And he should, and later on he said cyber attacks, right? But not in the first answer.
so are we to conclude from that then that paramilitary action and cyber attacks would not necessarily trigger the full sanctions or get unanimity within NATO to do that? Because that was the context of his minor incursions.
Well, I think, David, and obviously you closely covered, as others did back in 2014 as well. So that was a reference in part, or what he was doing is referencing what we've seen in terms of tactics during that period of time and since that time, of course, right? The little green men, cyber attacks, etc. I think we have a range of the point he was making is that we have a range of tools, right? I'm not going to outline for you here, what if this, what if that. I think what should be clear to everyone, and I think he was very clear on this morning, is that if President Putin decides to invade Ukraine, if they move military troops, across the border, that's an invasion, and there will be severe economic consequences. We also know that we need to be prepared for a range of scenarios, and we have a range of tools and tactics at our disposal. Obviously, we just announced sanctions this morning, and they have not invaded. So I'm not going to parse more than that, other than to convey that we've seen them use a range of tools. What he was very clear about this morning is that if they assemble Russian units, if they move those across the Ukrainian border, that's an invasion. There will be severe economic consequences. On a NATO, what he was conveying is that we have been focused and ensuring that we remain united with NATO. Now, united doesn't mean that everything will be identical, right? It means we're united in taking actions should they decide to invade. And we are united. And you've seen leaders from Europe convey very clearly that there would be consequences, even as recently as this morning.
I guess this will be the last one on this, but where I'm headed is, for 5 or 6 years, even back to when you were in the Obama administration, you may recall there's been an effort to try to bolster particularly cyber deterrence by not making a distinction between what you could do with the cyber attack and what you could do with a physical attack. And obviously the Russians have turned off the power in Ukraine twice, in 2015, 2016. They messed with an election in Ukraine before they came here. So I'm just trying to figure out if the president's trying to make a distinction that we would use lesser forms of penalties for cyber attacks or paramilitary action than we would for going over the border. In other words, are we diminishing what over the years two or three administrations have tried to build up in that sphere?
Our intention is not to diminish. Our intention is to be very clear about what a military incursion would mean. Now, in terms of what the range of options are at our disposal, obviously we've taken actions, seen and unseen, announced and unannounced, on cyber in the past, and we reserve every right to do exactly that. And the president is very cognizant of the threat that cyber attacks, we've experienced them here, of course, pose to the United States, pose to other countries around the world. But I think it was to provide clarity and directness on what he conveyed directly to President Putin.